So we're talking about how to gain confidence in your riding, and we we talked about the definitions. I heard somebody in a podcast yesterday or the day before really talking about the power of words and the interpretation of words, and it made me even enjoy this part more. That I think by talking about the the definitions and how those definitions and these words apply to what we're talking about in the webinar is so important. And it's just that couple of minutes that it takes to get us on track to the intention of the evening. So confidence, meaning full trust, belief in the powers, trustworthiness, or reliability of yourself, a person, or a thing. So right here, we're talking about the belief that we have in ourselves, and we're trying to gain it. And that's to get something desired, especially a result of one's effort. So we might have to make a little effort to create more confidence in ourselves, and this is associated with us. So we went through the first 6 last week. Let yourself learn what is important to you. Get to know your body, how it reacts to stress. Where are you tight? How fit are you? Are you one-sided? Get to know your horse. Number 3 for Meg. Observe, interact, groom, spend time together. Number 4, ride in a saddle that fits you. Ride in a saddle that fits your horse. Number 5, give yourself and your horse all the time you need before mounting. And then 6, feel free to ask questions. There are no stupid questions. So today we're going to go over 7. Think about your riding in a positive way at times other than when you are riding. Learn from watching others. Make it a no judgment zone and just observe and learn. And then number 8, keep the ego out of it. So we need to go here, I believe. Here we go. So number 7, what I'm talking about here is something that we've talked about a little bit in the past, where you start to have awareness of your body and different things about your reactions in times of the day when you're not riding. And are you can you stretch a little bit when you're when I'm pumping gas? I might stretch out my thighs. I might think about my calves a little bit. When you're putting on your spurs or getting dressed, can you practice standing on one foot while you're putting on your socks and things like that, so that you just have those moments of awareness. If you're walking, are you taking equal steps with each leg? Are your arms both as relaxed and moving with you? If you're going to the gym or doing something like that, are you breathing all the way down into your belly? Things like that. We talked about brushing your teeth or eating with your non-dominant hand. We get into such habits, and our bodies are just doing things automatically without us noticing. And if we do some of those things when we're riding, our horses might not like it. So we want to start to be aware of that. And then because what I find is when I start thinking about it only when I'm riding, it actually stops the flow of my riding. If I am, which I am, less coordinated with my left hand, and I don't work on my left hand in other aspects of my life, then it stops the flow of my riding when I'm becoming aware that I don't have as good a contact on the left side of the bit. When I'm if my body starts to get a little crooked, I want to ride like 100% when I'm riding. And of course, I have to every once in a while check in on my body. But if I'm checking in on it other times during the day, then that check-in when I'm riding is gonna go a lot easier, and it's gonna be a lot better because I'm not only doing it when I'm riding. It's becoming a habit to use both of my hands equally. When I'm grooming, for instance, it's very easy just to always groom all the time with the right hand. So I always make sure to do some with my left hand too. Though those kind of things we're talking about. And then when you're watching people riding, this is another thing that can help you bring more awareness, is that thought of what does that feel like to them, so that you can start to identify a little bit more that flow and that circle of energy. And then you can make a decision, is that how you want to? So if you're creating this vision in your mind and you see somebody who looks like they're asking their horse to go forward, but everything about them is a little bit backward, you know that that's not what you want your body to look like, right? So sometimes that awareness, not in a judgmental way, okay? Because I'm not talking about judging other people, that they're not doing a good job or they're not good enough. I think that unless we are sitting on the horse, we have no right to comment about how somebody's riding. It's not really about that. It's like sitting and having this awareness of what's really going on. One of my mentors had actually wrote this thing about how he was standing next to the arena, and one of his young students was next to him, and they were watching somebody that was kind of sticking out from the other riders. And the student said, "Oh my gosh, I so wish that I could ride like that." And he looked at them and he was like, "What is it about that really intrigues you and makes you want to ride like that?" And his point was that there was a certain confidence about the person and a certain kind of athleticism about the horse, but the actual way that the person was riding was in again, creating movement from the wrong space. Not again, I'm not it's about what you want and the relationship that you want with your horse. It's about the feeling that you want. So if you are watching an arena and sometimes it's a horse that might not be all flamboyant going around the ring, that you start to watch that a little closer and you see the communication with the rider and the horse, and you see the understanding, and you see those small transitions, and you see the way the body moves. And then you see that move into the competition arena, and there's just it's a very successful and beautiful test. And so it's not about comparing yourself to others. It's just about educating your eye and starting to get to really see. Some people will stand on the sidelines and they'll say that something will happen and they'll be like, oh, that, that's so disappointing. I didn't see that coming, or that's a surprise. Where often an educated eye will kind of see that coming, that there's a certain pressure, a certain resistance, and you can start to see the person kind of trying to force the situation until there's that point of no return. So think about your writing at other times than when you are riding. Think about your body, think about your stretching, think about your coordination, and then think about that feeling tone. If you're watching somebody riding, what does it feel like to them? And I try to spend more time watching people that I like and that I would like to ride like, because that's just human nature a little bit, that imitation thing that we have in us, whether we like it or not. And I try really not to watch too much of riders that I don't want to emulate. But first you have to figure out what you like, what you see working, and gain those insights. So does anybody have any questions about that? The next one is keep the ego out of it. So how do we gain confidence without our ego? And I personally believe that letting our ego overtake us when we're riding is just a recipe for disaster. So I think that there is a part of the ego that can be really useful. It helps us to be proud and to present ourselves as our best self, whether it's how we're going to work a little bit harder at something because we want to be seen, if we are going to take better care of ourselves. I think that that's a great thing that the ego can do for us. But when we let it override our relationship with our horse, that's going to take us a little bit away from our horse instead of connect us with our horse. So it's important to just maintain and work on that synergistic relationship that you're building. So what I think about is Blondie and I are more than just my assets and her assets. 1 + 1 = 2, but it's actually that nurturing of both of us that come together that's going to grow it into something even more special when we go into the competition arena, and even just our relationship that we have at home. There's a certain energy and a certain feeling that you get when you watch people that are worrying, concentrating more about their horse and that feeling. I had a client for years, and it was so beautiful to watch him. He never cared about what anybody thought about his riding. He only cared about what his horse thought about his riding, and you could really see it in their relationship. And that's what I'm talking about, is not letting somebody worry about somebody else's opinions or something like that push you to leave that connection that you're building with your horse. Now, another thing that can sometimes happen with the ego is the trainer ego and that kind of thing coming in. And so if we are riding and we're taking a lesson and the trainer gets a little bit impatient because sometimes they think that they're being judged by our riding. Then again, that's a time where we have to separate ourselves from that, and again, stay focused on our horse. The I think that what are we trying to do is be better than we were yesterday or last week or last month. We're trying to improve on our own skills. We're trying to improve on the connection and the understanding that our horse has of what we're asking them to do. But we don't need to worry about somebody else, how they are doing compared to us. Are they getting better faster than we are? That's not going to help our riding at all. It actually, for me, it kind of closes me down and creates a situation that I don't work at the things that I should be working on. I think that the ego can also cause us to look at others in a judgmental way. And whenever we look at others in a judgmental way, that means that we're also judging ourselves on that bar. So we need to be careful about that. Ego edging good out. So sometimes when the ego starts to take over, we start blaming others or creating excuses because we don't want to be seen as not doing as well as. So that's another way that being too proud or not being grounded and humble in your own shoes isn't going to benefit you in the long run. So you want to do the best you can for today with your horse and how your horse presents itself today. And sometimes that isn't going to be what we had hoped for or strived for if we're in a show or a clinic or something like that. It's something that is, for me, very, very difficult. And you see oftentimes in these clinics that they do with a lot of spectators, where the lesson should be about something that the horse needs to work on, and the clinician doesn't want to talk about that subject because they don't want to open that can of worms. And so in front of all these spectators and people that are trying to learn, that subject gets avoided. Or you have the trainer trying to make himself look good through that horse and rider combination and not really teaching them. So I think it's important that we just try to do our best on that day. Sometimes that means stepping down, and in tomorrow will be much better because we did that. The other thing is, for me, when things aren't going exactly the way I want them to go, if I find that gratefulness, then it's very easy to get back on track and get back into asking little and rewarding a lot and get the lesson right back on track. And if my ego's taking over, then it's going to be like my way or the highway. We have to get this done now. We have to show that we can do this. We have to show how fancy you are, or whatever that is. And that's not going to work on a long term, and it's going to break down our relationships, and ultimately it'll break down our confidence, not build it up. So confidence, to me, does not have a lot to do with ego. Confidence has to do with that grounded place. I think we see that quote about it. Not confidence has to do not with thinking about what being confident about what other people think about us, but instead actually not caring about what they think of us. So this is, for me, these lessons, these 8, will spill over into other aspects of our life that will improve our riding, and our riding will also improve how we deal with other things as well. And I created, does anybody have any questions or any comments that they want to give about that before we move? I put a little bit of a practice. Where is my, here we go. There we go. I made up because that was just the end of the last week because I went too long. Feeling stressed and overwhelmed. So sometimes we don't have that ability to feel confident because we start to get stressed with overwhelm or overwhelmed. And I think that comes from unhealthy pressure, and unhealthy pressure that we might be putting on ourselves, or that our trainer is putting on us, or that a certain venue or situation, maybe coming from the stress at the horse show and how all the other horses and all the other people are feeling. But what I do is this 3-point checklist. And I try to practice these things not only in, horse shows, but make them a way of life. So the first thing I do, if I start to feel like my relaxation level is diminishing and my stress level is escalating, is I start really working on my breathing. The first thing we do when we get nervous is we stop breathing. And when we stop breathing, our bodies tell our brain that something is really wrong. And when your brain decides something is wrong, it does all kind of things with hormones and adrenaline and things like that, cortisol, that make us respond and react in ways that we really wouldn't if we were able to find space between the stimulus and our response. So what is the brain doing that for? Is the old days when we actually did have to run away from things that really were going to kill us. Now our brains are getting stimulated by things that are not physically going to hurt us. We can stop breathing because we get tense that we're not going to do a good job, because our horse had a little spook, because we see walking over to the ring or to the warm-up and we see somebody over there, looking like $1 million, and we start thinking, oh, we're never going to be that good, we're not going to be able to do that good, and we start to get tense, like, now what am I going to do? I'm not good enough. So breathing, many different types of breathing, but we need to practice what works for us other times than when we're only getting into that stressful situation. What I like to do is really pay attention to breathing down into my belly and not moving my shoulders when I do that. Oftentimes people will tell you to take a deep breath, and what do? The shoulders go up, the air stays up here, and you're not really breathing down deep into your diaphragm. So you're maintaining that level of stress, and your brain is still thinking that you're stressed. What if you have the opportunity to do your box breathing? I think that's very helpful. Breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 4, holding for 4. And you can make this a habit, and it can even, just the same as these things happen to you subconsciously in a little bit the way you wouldn't want. Like subconsciously we get nervous, our shoulders start to come up. Subconsciously we start to hold our breath. But if you do it enough in practice, you can actually teach yourself to breathe deep and box breathe without even having to think about it. It will start to be a subconscious reaction. And when that happens, your riding is going to improve. All of your muscles get tight and tense when you're not breathing correctly. Your horse feels that. You also get tired much quicker when you're not breathing correctly. You will feel like your legs are going to fall off. You're going to feel like you can't keep going. You end up holding your body kind of in a lockdown position, not moving with the horse. So think about it when you're driving your car, when you're washing the dishes, when you're doing the laundry, folding laundry. All these times are really good just to start practicing breathing. Also, if something comes into your mind that's stressful, so you have an important conversation or a meeting at work that you need to do, this can cause you to start not to breathe deep. Just the thought of it, just you're picturing this conversation you have to do, another time to practice with the deep breathing. And that will help you, because when you are in the middle of that conversation, instead of you holding your breath, bringing your shoulders up and feeling uncomfortable, you've already been there once. You've already taught yourself that you don't need to get that uptight. And that will help to bring that space in between, so you can respond in your conversation well. The same, we want to respond with our horses in those conversations well. We don't want to overreact if our horse makes a mistake. We want to have that patience and that relaxation in our joints and in our body. So breathing is a big help to my riding. And when I find myself getting stressed or overwhelmed, the first thing I do is check in on my breathing. That brings me into the present and helps me to identify with my body any tension spots that I have, and also gives me space in between the stimulus and my response to it. The next thing is that I go back in my mind's eye to the first time that I set that goal. So if something is overwhelming me about a horse show I'm preparing for, or even warming up for, or something that I said that I would do or participate in or help somebody with, or even, now as I start to get a little bit more busy with the coaching, maybe I have a client that I really want that conversation to go well, and I feel myself getting a little bit tensed. I go back in my mind's eye to the time when I set that goal, when I said that I could do this. And I feel that energy of what I felt then, that hopefulness and that positive anticipation that it was going to work. And then I also let myself journey from there up until this place, realizing that between that time and now, I have done preparation. I have learned a lot of things. I am ready for this situation that's going to happen. So whatever it is, it could be in a riding lesson and you're all of a sudden being asked to do a new difficult exercise. Take a minute. think about how exciting this is that your trainer thinks you're ready to do that exercise. And let yourself enjoy that energy. And you don't need to be perfect at it. If you are going to a show and you're getting ready to ride in that show, enjoy and embrace that moment. This is so wonderful that if you're taking a clinic with a new instructor and you want to do everything right and impress them, that's you're there for a lesson. And think about when you signed up, oh, this is going to be so much fun. I'm going to be able to learn from this person. I'm going to be able to learn how to do things more the way they do it. I don't need to be perfect. So I want to get that energy wrapped around when I first decided on committing to that goal and taking action on that goal. Because that energy that I had right before I took action on that goal was what I want to take with me as I'm doing it. So the third thing on my 3-point checklist is to connect on an energetic level with my horse. And if I'm in a very stressful situation, this might not be so easy. And I might need to do a little bit of my breathing exercises, my Tai Chi, my Qigong, something like that, that brings me back into that energy that my horse needs me to be in. And I think I told you guys this past winter, I was getting ready to go and show in Global with Blondie. And a lot of times my time would be early in the morning, and I wouldn't have a lot of opportunity for more than going out and braiding her and doing the necessary packing and whatever, and then getting to the show to warm up. But on this day, the time was later in the day, and I had time to go through my Qigong practice. And I thought I was relaxed. I really felt like I was relaxed. And I started doing the practice, and my mind is just going 100 miles an hour about why I don't have time. And, this is taking too long, and I should just stop doing this and go do something else. And it took me about 15 minutes until I really just started relaxing into the practice. And I was super surprised at how belligerent my mind was about just staying in that place and doing this practice that I do, most days. It should not have felt so bad. And that made me feel a little bit bad for my horse, because of course that's what she's dealing with if I'm not doing that practice. And my ride went just so much better for taking that time and getting my energy aligned where it needed to be. And then when I did go and groom her and braid her and everything, I could connect with her where we needed to connect. And that really means that I have created an awareness and a feeling of her energetic space, because when you're riding and your body is not in that space, you are going to be giving your aids with bad timing. You're going to start feeling like your horse is not listening to you and responding on you, because you're both on two different pages. And our nerves and adrenaline and things like that can create that feeling that she's not listening to me. It's not going fast enough. It's not in front of my leg, but it's because we're going at this pace And no, that is not what your horse is used to, and how your horse is used to you riding. And so we'll feel out of whack. A lot of times having a trainer on the ground can be helpful in those moments, because they'll bring you into that tempo. They'll tell you when it's right, and it's not going to feel right. You're going to be like, are you sure I shouldn't be going faster, or that this is the right shape? Because you're going to feel like your reins are too short or too long, or your arms are too short or too long, your legs, the stirrups don't feel like the right length, those kind of things. So I strongly suggest working at getting into your horse's energetic space and doing whatever exercises that you need prior that are going to help you to get in that alignment, just as you would do normally at home. Now, sometimes just riding at home can bring those subjects up. So if the weather is bad or stormy or windy, that might be a time to do some breathing exercises, do a little bit of whatever works for you, some yoga poses, or go for a walk around the block, or whatever it is that gets you into that flow. And think about your also those muscles that get tight when we are in a a tensed and blocked energetic space. Our shoulders are going to get tight. The horse is going to have a bad feeling in the mouth and in the neck from us. Our psoas and hips are going to get tight. We get a little bit into that frozen mode. The horse is going to feel very bouncy. The horse is going to feel like it's behind us. We're going to end up grippy with the legs because the horse feels behind us. So we're not going to be able to move with our horses when we're not creating that relaxed, energetic space. Relaxed does not mean sleepy. Relaxed means open and aware and feeling the energy of our horse and being able to reciprocate that feeling back, which is one of the most fun things for me. I think it's interesting if we are, if you're relaxed and you're at home and you go into your horse's space and you just create a little bit of awareness and intention inside yourself, you can readily feel their heart space. Their heart space is just so big and it can envelop you. And if you're in that tense or needy place, then you don't set that intention. Then it's bouncing off of you. You're not accepting it. You're not getting into it. And so I think the horses realize that too. So these are just things for me, 3 things for me, a little checklist to make sure that I'm going, not letting myself get into a bad, crazy place, which I've been there too. So to recap the last 2 webinars, so this one and the one before. Let yourself learn and learn what is important to you. So that might include extracurricular learning. If there's something that you feel you are missing, if there's something that you feel is there's not time for in your lessons, then take that time and let yourself explore it. Get to know your body, how it reacts to stress. Where are you tight? How fit are you? Are you one-sided? I think what I could add here is get to love your body, to appreciate your body, take care of your body. Okay? That will help you to be more confident as well. that you get to really, hydrate, take care of yourself, eat better, these kind of things. I'm already on board for that. But I could add love your body. Get to know your body and love it. Get to know your horse. Observe, interact, groom, spend time together. I don't think I need to tell you the love your horse part. We already do that. 4, ride in a saddle that fits you. Ride in a saddle that fits your horse. This might evolve over time. And don't feel bad about that. I think that sometimes we need to adjust our stirrups up and down. We need to ride in one saddle for 6 months until our legs learn to do this, or a seat needs to do that, until we figure that out. And then we might evolve into another saddle. It's really a bummer because sometimes finding the right saddle is not easy. I just think that we don't need to get stuck to one saddle, and because it works right now, when it starts to feel uncomfortable, think there's something wrong with us. No, you're evolving. You should be evolving. You're growing and you're riding, and you might get your stirrups a little longer, and then all of a sudden the knee block is in a different place, or the seat feels funny. Your horse might be building up muscles a little different and tipping you forward or backward or something like that. So always keep track of that. If you start to feel uncomfortable, change it. Be sure to give yourself and your horse all the time you need before mounting. This is the safest thing to do, and take time with your horse in the groundwork to feel how they feel before you get on. Feel free to ask questions. There are no stupid questions. I honestly feel that. And I think we talked a little bit about it, how, getting on page with each other, remembering that we all have different perspectives, different experiences. So it's interesting for me that idea, the timing of the questions is important, but I do think that the conversation is really healthy and promotes better growth between the horse and the rider and the trainer, you will definitely move forward faster if you aren't understanding something and you're willing to say, I do not know where you're asking me to go, or I do not understand how you want my body to be, or how you want my horse's body to be. Ask questions. Think about your riding in a positive way at times other than when you're riding. Learn from watching others. No judgment. Observe and learn. We talked about that a lot today. And then let's keep the ego out of it. Let's not try to be better than other people. Let's try to do our best every day, which does not include having some kind of a perfectionism problem. And we just want to think that the relationship and the communication that we have between us and the horse is the most important thing, not what it looks like. I really will say it again, that the most out of control people are in the dressage arena because they think if their horse puts the head up that people are going to judge them. And for me, if you cannot steer and you cannot stop and you cannot go, I don't care where your horse's head is, this is a prerequisite. So don't think about what other people think. Every once in a while, you're going to have a little bit of a bump where your horse doesn't understand you, but you need to keep riding so that it understands you, not so that it looks perfect, but you can't control it. Then my checklist when I start to get stressed: breathe, imagine, and become present with your horse. So, does anybody have anything that they want to